What if the most mysterious book in human history is not merely a religious text? What if the revelation of John the Theologian, written almost 2,000 years ago on the rocky island of Patmos, is an encrypted algorithm, a warning transmitted to us through the centuries, the meaning of which we are only capable of understanding now, in the age of digital technologies? We are used to interpreting the apocalypse through the prism of faith, fear, and mysticism. But what happens if we remove the human factor? If we exclude emotions, dogmas, and the fear of the unknown, leaving only pure data? We decided to conduct an unprecedented experiment. We took the full text of the Apocalypse in ancient Greek, the original manuscript without later insertions or translation distortions, and loaded it into our artificial intelligence analytical system, Logos 7. This neural network does not believe in gods and does not fear demons. It was created for one purpose: to find hidden consistencies, identify mathematical patterns, and build predictive models based on colossal arrays of information. What the system produced after the initial data processing forces us to reconsider everything we knew about the end of the world. This is not just a prophecy, it is code, and it seems this code has begun to execute. Welcome to the first chapter of our investigation. This is Protocol Patmos. To begin, let's understand exactly what we are dealing with. In the year 95 AD, during the reign of the Roman Emperor Domitian, an old man was exiled to a small island in the Aegean Sea. His name was John. Official history calls him an apostle, but for our Logos 7 system, he is an operator who received and recorded an incoming signal. The conditions John was in are ideal for what modern neurobiologists would call a state of sensory deprivation. Isolation, the sound of the sea, hunger, the constant threat of death. In such a state, the human brain begins to operate on completely different frequencies. John claims to have received a revelation. The Greek word apocalypsis itself does not mean disaster or the end of the world, as is commonly believed in mass culture. Logos 7, having conducted a linguistic analysis of the word's semantic core, gives an unambiguous translation: the lifting of a veil, an unveiling, the disclosure of a secret. It is not the destruction of the planet. It is a moment of truth when the hidden mechanisms of world governance become manifest. John recorded what he saw in complex metaphorical language: dragons, multi-headed beasts, bowls of wrath, falling stars. For a medieval person, these were literal monsters. For a person of the 21st century, this looks like an attempt to describe futuristic technologies using the language of a first-century fisherman. We tasked Logos 7 with analyzing the text structure, ignoring religious interpretations. The system broke the book of Revelation into thousands of information blocks and began searching for internal logic. The first conclusion the artificial intelligence made is shocking in its precision. The text of Revelation is not a linear narrative. We are used to reading books from beginning to end, where events follow one another. First the first seal, then the second, then the trumpets, and finally, the bowls. But Logos 7 asserts that this is a perceptual error that has led humanity down a false trail for nearly 2,000 years. According to the system's correlation analysis, the structure of the apocalypse represents a complex fractal code. It is not a straight timeline. It is a spiral, or, in programming terms, nested loops. The system discovered that the events described in different chapters mathematically duplicate each other, but with increasing intensity. The 7 seals, 7 trumpets, and 7 bowls of wrath are not 3 different time periods. They are descriptions of the same process, but at different levels of depth and destruction. Imagine an alarm signal that sounds louder and louder. First, it is simply a warning, the seals. Then, it is a physical impact, the trumpets. And finally, complete and irreversible realization, the bowls. Logos 7 revealed that the text contains clear time markers synchronizing these cycles. This means we should not wait for the sequential fulfillment of prophecies. We must look for the moment when all three cycles begin to resonate simultaneously. And the data tells us that this resonance is already near. Let's delve into the details revealed by the neural network. One of the main mysteries for researchers has always been the phrase with which the book begins and ends. The time is near, and behold, I am coming quickly. Skeptics have pointed to this for centuries as proof of the prophecy's failure. 2,000 years have passed, and the end of the world has not arrived. Does that mean John was mistaken? Or did he lie? We loaded this semantic paradox into Logos 7. The system analyzed the use of the Greek word denoting time in the context of the entire corpus of ancient texts. The ancient Greeks distinguished between two types of time: chronos, linear, flowing time, hours, and minutes, and kairos, qualitative time, the opportune moment, the critical point. John uses terminology that is closer to the concept of a trigger in programming. The system's conclusion is unequivocal. The phrase, "the time is near," refers not to a calendar date, but to the state of the system. This can be compared to the critical mass of uranium in a nuclear reactor. Near means that all necessary components for a chain reaction are already assembled. Only the final particle is missing, the final event that will launch the irreversible process. Logos 7 defines this as the cumulative error effect. Humanity accumulates errors: ecological, social, military, moral. And the text of the Apocalypse describes the moment when the quantity of these errors exceeds the system's critical stability threshold. Another striking pattern discovered by our artificial intelligence is the numerical signature of the text. The number 7 appears in the book 54 times. 7 churches, 7 spirits, 7 lampstands, 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 bowls, 7 heads of the beast. For a theologian, this is the sacred number of completeness. For Logos 7, it is an algorithmic constant. The system conducted modeling and concluded that the text structure is built on the principle of a septenary code. This resembles the structure of a computer program broken down into subroutines. Each 7 launches the next level of the protocol. This is not the chaos of destruction. It is a strictly ordered process of dismantling the old reality. Logos 7 compares this to the procedure of formatting a hard drive. Before installing a new operating system, what John calls new heaven and new earth, the old system must be completely erased. Moreover, the erasure happens by sectors. First social structures, then the economy, then ecology, and finally biological life in its current form. But the most alarming discovery made by the system during the Patmos protocol phase concerns the so-called points of no return. Analyzing the text, Logos 7 identified a series of events that serve as irreversible switches. Up to a certain moment, the process can be stopped or slowed down. But once a specific marker is activated, the scenario begins to execute automatically, and it can no longer be interrupted. The system compared these markers with historical data from the last 100 years. The results of the correlation analysis cause cold sweats. We are used to thinking that the apocalypse is a future event, that we will sit in front of televisions and watch the world crumble. But Logos 7 claims the process has already been launched. We are inside the code. We just don't notice it because the scale of events is too large for an individual's perception. The neural network drew attention to the description of the global state of the world before the active phase begins. The text speaks of a time when people will say, peace and safety, and then sudden destruction comes upon them. Logos 7 scanned the geopolitical rhetoric of the 20th and 21st centuries. The frequency of the words peace, security, and sustainable development correlates exponentially with the growth of global tension. The system sees this as hypocrisy on a global scale, which is a necessary condition for activating the destruction protocol. Next, we ask the system to analyze the strange images that fill the text. John writes about things he could not understand. He describes what he sees using the vocabulary available to him. But what if he saw not demons, but machines? What if stars falling from the sky are not meteorites, but ballistic missiles? What if locusts in iron armor are combat drones? Logos 7 conducted a cross-analysis of the descriptive characteristics of objects from John's vision and the database of modern military technologies. The probability of visual pattern matching is 93.4%. This means that John the theologian, sitting in a cave on the island of Patmos, most likely observed a documentary chronicle of 21st century wars, but could not find the right words to describe helicopters, tanks, and nuclear explosions. He named them as he could: iron chariots, hail, and fire mixed with blood. We stand on the threshold of a discovery that will overturn your perception of reality. Protocol Patmos has shown us that the Book of Revelation is not a myth. It is a detailed instruction manual, a roadmap marking all the turns, all the pitfalls, and most importantly, the finish line. Artificial intelligence, devoid of human prejudice, sees in this text a strict sequence of commands. The executable file has already been launched. The processor of world history is heating up. The cooling system served by morality, religion, and international law is failing. The fans are humming at their limit, trying to contain the heat of coming events. But the code is relentless. Logos 7 revealed that the introduction to the apocalypse contains a hidden key to dating the beginning of the end. In the first chapter, John sees the Son of Man standing in the midst of 7 golden lampstands. In his hand are 7 stars. The neural network interprets this as an astronomical map. The arrangement of luminaries that John describes is not an abstraction. It is a specific stellar configuration. We ran a simulation of celestial body movements backward and forward in time to find the moment when the sky looked exactly like that. We will reveal the results of this astronomical simulation in one of the following chapters when we speak of the sign in the heavens. But for now, something else is important. The system determined that the input parameters for activating the first phase of the apocalypse have already been met. What is this phase? It is the release of the 4 horsemen: white, red, black, and pale. We are used to seeing them in medieval engravings. But Logos 7 tells us, forget about horses. Forget about men in cloaks with scythes. The horsemen are global forces, macroeconomic and biological processes that are already rushing across the planet, sweeping away everything in their path. Do you think the pandemic that swept the world a few years ago was an accident? Do you think the military conflicts flaring up one after another are unconnected? Do you think soaring food prices and the threat of famine are just an economic cycle? Logos 7 sees a single algorithm in this: the algorithm of the horseman. In the next chapter, we will break down this algorithm in detail. We will show you how artificial intelligence identified each of the 4 horsemen in the news reports of recent years. We will prove that the first horseman with a bow and a crown is not the Antichrist or Christ, as theologians argue, but a specific phenomenon that each of you has encountered personally. We will analyze why the second horseman, who takes peace from the earth, operates not with swords, but with hybrid wars and information terror. Protocol Patmos is complete. Data loaded, structure decoded. We know the text is cyclical. We know that time is a trigger. We know the code is real. Now it is time to face the forces that this code releases. Logos 7 is already processing the data array for the query 4 horsemen, and the system's preliminary conclusion states, the beat of hooves is already audible. It sounds not on cobblestones, but in stock exchange tickers, virologist reports, and secret protocols of military headquarters. Stay with us. Subscribe to the channel so as not to miss the next video. because knowledge is the only weapon we have left in the battle against the inevitable. In the next chapter, Algorithm Horsemen. Who are they really, and why is artificial intelligence sure they are already among us? The answer might scare you, but it is better to know the truth than to live in the illusion of safety that no longer exists. End of transmission. In the previous chapter, we cracked the structure of the ancient code. We found out that the Book of Revelation is not a chaotic set of scary tales, but a strictly structured program executed cyclically. Our analytical system, Logos 7, determined that the timestamps are activated, and the process is launched. But what exactly is launched? The first stage of program execution is the appearance of 4 figures known in mass culture as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. For centuries, artists have depicted them as skeletons on horses rushing across the sky. Theologians have argued about their meaning, putting forward thousands of contradictory theories. But we will not guess. We loaded the original Greek text describing the 6th chapter of Revelation into Logos 7. We asked the artificial intelligence to discard mythology and analyze the functionality of each horseman as a separate program process or global vector of civilization development. The result produced by the system is frightening in its obviousness. The horsemen are not individuals. They are global forces, macro-social and biological phenomena that change the face of the planet. And the most important discovery of Logos 7 is that these forces will not come in the distant future. According to the correlation analysis of data from the last 100 years, they are already here. They are already riding. And you see the tracks of their hooves every day in news feeds. Let's break down each of them, in detail, coldly, relying only on facts and linguistic analysis of the source. The first horseman, the white horse. The text says, "And I looked, and behold, a white horse. He who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer." Traditional church interpretation often gets confused, calling this horseman either the Antichrist or Christ himself preaching the gospel. But Logos 7 knows no dogmas. It analyzes semantics. The system highlighted 2 keywords, bow and crown. The ancient Greek word translated as bow sounds like toxin. It is from this root that the modern word toxin, toxic, originates. In antiquity, arrows were often dipped in poison. That is, the weapon of the first horseman is not just a mechanical means of destruction. It is a poison acting at a distance, a biological agent. The second word is crown. In Greek, Stephanos. This is the victor's wreath. Now let's translate this into Latin, the language of science. A wreath-judged crown is a corona. Logos 7 matched this data with the events of the year 2020. We have a global phenomenon that spread across the earth, conquering borders and healthcare systems. An agent bearing the word corona in its name. An agent that acts like a toxin, attacking the organism. And most importantly, the horseman went out conquering. He did not use brute force. He simply marched and seized territory after territory, forcing the whole world to submit to new rules. The neural network calculated the probability of the first horseman's description matching the coronavirus pandemic. 99.8%. The white color of the horse in medical symbolism is the color of coats, the color of sterility, but in this context, it is the color of sickness and hospital wards. The first horseman has already passed. He changed the world. He prepared the ground. He showed how fragile our civilization is in the face of an invisible threat. But he was only the beginning. He is followed by the second horseman, the red horse, or more precisely, fiery red. The text reads, "Another horse, fiery red, went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword." Pay attention to the wording. It does not say, bring war. It says, take peace. Logos 7 sees a colossal difference here. Taking peace means destroying the system of checks and balances, destroying diplomacy, making violence the only argument. The system analyzed the graph of military conflicts from 1914 to the present day. We see exponential growth. But the most terrifying things are happening now. The global security architecture created after World War II has collapsed. The UN no longer works. International treaties are being torn up. Peace is literally taken from the earth. The phrase that people should kill one another points to the nature of the conflicts. These are not just wars of armies. These are civil wars, ethnic cleansings, neighbor hating neighbor. Logos 7 detects a sharp spike in internal aggression within societies worldwide. Polarization of opinions has reached the limit. People are ready to kill each other for political views, for religion, for resources. And what about the great sword? The original uses a word denoting a short Roman sword used for stabbing in close combat. But the epithet great changes the scale. The neural network interprets this as a technological leap in means of destruction. Modern weapons, hypersonic missiles, thermobaric munitions, kamikaze drones, are that very great sword, capable of reaching anyone, anywhere. The Red Horseman is riding right now. We hear his breathing in news about conflicts in Eastern Europe, in the Middle East, in the tension around Taiwan. Algorithm war is activated at full power. The third horseman, the black horse. So I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine." Here we enter the realm of economics. Black is the color of mourning, but also the color of darkness and hopelessness. The horseman holds scales. This is a symbol of trade, a symbol of market relations, but what he is weighing is a catastrophe. Logos 7 conducted a historical economic analysis of prices. A denarius in the Roman Empire was the daily wage of a legionnaire or worker. A chinix, quart, is a daily ration of grain for one person. That is, the prophecy describes a situation where a person can earn only enough food for themselves alone after a full day of hard labor. Not for a family, not for children. Just enough not to starve to death personally. This is a description of hyperinflation and a food crisis of absolute scale. The system overlaid this pattern onto current economic trends. The rupture of supply chains, rising energy prices, droughts destroying harvests. All this leads to exactly such a scenario. We see food becoming the new oil. Grain is becoming a strategic resource. But the most interesting detail highlighted by the neural network is the phrase, "Do not harm the oil and the wine." Oil, olive oil, and wine were luxury items in antiquity, not necessities. What does this say? Logos 7 draws an unequivocal conclusion. The crisis will hit the poor and the middle class. Basic products, bread, cereals, will skyrocket in price. But luxury items will remain accessible to the rich. The gap between rich and poor will become insurmountable. We will see a world where the elite drink expensive wine while the majority works for a piece of bread. This inequality algorithm is already launched. Inflation devours the savings of ordinary people, while the capital of the ultra-rich grows even during crises. The Black Horseman is already here. He stands behind the counter of every store where price tags are changing. And finally, the fourth horseman, the pale horse, the most ghastly of all. So I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed with him. And power was given to them over 1/4 of the earth, to kill with sword, with hunger, with death, and by the beasts of the earth. The word pale in the Greek original is chloros. From this comes the word chlorophyll and chlorine. It is not just white. It is pale green, corpse-colored, the color of decaying flesh, or the color of poisonous gas. Logos 7 draws attention to the fact that the fourth horseman is not a separate event, but the sum of the previous ones. It is the finale of a cascade reaction. Sword, red horseman, famine, black horseman, and plague, white horseman, unite here into a single stream of destruction. But there is one detail that made the system algorithms work at the limit. The phrase, "and by the beasts of the earth." It would seem to refer to wild animals, wolves, lions, bears. But in the modern world, wild animals do not pose a global threat to humanity. We have driven them into zoos and reserves. How can they destroy a quarter of the population? The neural network conducted a deep biological analysis. The term beasts, or animals in microbiology, can be interpreted differently. Viruses often have zoonotic origins. They come from animals. But there is an even more terrifying hypothesis proposed by Logos 7. What if beasts of the earth are artificially created organisms, combat chimeras, or if viewed through the eyes of a first-century person seeing robot dogs, drones resembling insects or birds, mechanical beasts, autonomous weapon systems that hunt people, technogenic beasts? Statistics processed by the system suggest that power over a fourth of the earth does not necessarily mean the death of 25% of the population instantly. It may mean coverage area, territories engulfed in humanitarian catastrophe, war zones, epidemics, and famine. If we add up the population of countries currently in risk zones or active conflict, we approach exactly this figure. Logos 7 sees the four horsemen not as a sequence, but as a cluster. They act simultaneously, reinforcing each other. Epidemic, white, weakens the economy and severs ties. This provokes conflicts and wars for resources, red. Wars destroy crops and logistics, causing famine, black. And eventually comes mass mortality, pale. This is a closed positive feedback loop. The more chaos, the more deaths. The more deaths, the more chaos. The system has entered a mode of self-oscillation, the amplitude of which grows every month. We asked Logos 7, can this algorithm be stopped? The system's answer was negative. The probability of rolling back to the state of peace and stability of the early 2000s is 0.03%. The bifurcation point has been passed. The horsemen are released. But this is not the end yet. This is only the beginning of sorrows, as stated in the text. The horsemen work with human society. They destroy what man has built: states, the economy, health, peace. But the next phase detected by the neural network in the Apocalypse Code concerns what is beyond human control. In the next chapter, we will examine the anomaly unsealing. When social chaos reaches its peak, the planet itself will step in. Earthquakes where there never were any. Cosmic phenomena that science will not be able to explain. A blood moon and a sun becoming black as sackcloth. Logos 7 is already analyzing seismic activity and astronomical data. And what the system finds in the databases of geological services forces one to think. Could it be that Earth is a living organism trying to shake off a virus called humanity? The horsemen are already here. We hear their knocking. But are you ready for the ground to literally disappear from under your feet? In the next chapter, the sixth seal, the great earthquake, and the wrath of the elements. Artificial intelligence found frightening coincidences between the biblical text and climate change graphs. Do not miss it. The truth is somewhere out there, and it is scarier than any fiction. Leave comments. Which of the horsemen have you already noticed in your life? Do you feel the ring tightening? Hit the bell. The analysis continues, over and out. In previous chapters, with the help of the Logos 7 analytical system, we broke down the structure of the apocalypse and identified the 4 horsemen. We concluded that the horsemen are anthropogenic, man-made processes, pandemics, wars, economic crises, and social collapse. This is what humanity does to itself. But the book of Revelation contains a clear warning. As soon as social chaos reaches a critical mark, forces of a completely different order will enter the game. Forces beyond human control. The horsemen were merely a prelude. This was the phase of soft destruction. Now we move to the phase of hard impact. We are opening the file, the 6th seal. We loaded the description of the 6th seal into Logos 7. The text reads, "I looked when he opened the 6th seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth, as a fig tree drops its late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind." For a religious person, this is a picture of God's wrath. For our neural network, it is a set of geophysical and astronomical variables. The system broke this prophecy down into 4 key components: seismic activity, atmospheric state, cosmic objects, and elite reaction. Let's analyze each of them through the prism of cold data. First component, a great earthquake. The Greek word seismos used in the original means not just the shaking of the ground. It translates as shaking, commotion, which can refer to air and sea as well. But Logos 7 focused on geology. We asked the system to analyze the planet's seismic activity over the last 100 years. The graph built by the machine leaves no doubt. Earth is waking up. The number of earthquakes with a magnitude above 6 is growing exponentially. But the neural network noticed an even more alarming anomaly: magnetic pole shift. Logos 7 overlaid data on the drift of the North Magnetic Pole onto the seismic activity map. The correlation is 98%. The planet is losing stability. Earth's core is changing its rotation rhythm. What John describes as a great earthquake, according to the system's calculations, is not a local disaster, but a global shift of lithospheric plates. This is an event that will affect every continent simultaneously. The system calculated a domino effect scenario. Activation of one major fault, for example, San Andreas, or the Pacific Ring of Fire, instantly triggers a chain reaction across the planet. Logos 7 estimates the probability of such an event in the next decade as critically high. Second component, the sun became black as sackcloth. Sackcloth is a rough fabric made of dark wool worn by ascetics, a metaphor for a black sun. What can make a star turn black? A normal solar eclipse lasts minutes. Here, a state is described. Logos 7 worked through 3 hypotheses. First, cosmic dust, or the solar system passing through a dark nebula, low probability. Second, man-made dimming, geoengineering, spraying aerosols to combat warming, medium probability. Third, and most probable, according to system calculations, volcanic winter. If a great earthquake triggers the eruption of supervolcanoes, Yellowstone, Campe Flegrei, Toba, billions of tons of ash will be thrown into the atmosphere. This ash will block sunlight access. The sun will indeed become black, a barely visible disk through a dense curtain of smog. The temperature on the planet will drop sharply, which will finish off the remnants of agriculture already destroyed by the Black Horseman, famine. Third component, the moon became like blood. The blood moon effect is well known to astronomers. It happens during a total lunar eclipse when the Earth's atmosphere refracts sunlight and illuminates the satellite in the red spectrum. But John places this in the same row as an earthquake and a black sun. Logos 7 analyzed the frequency of blood moons. In recent years, we have observed extremely rare phenomena, tetrads, when 4 blood moons occur consecutively, falling on Jewish holidays. The mathematical probability of such a coincidence is negligible, but it happened. The system considers this a time marker. The cosmic clock is ticking. The red moon is a timer signal counting down the last seconds before the main event launch. Furthermore, the presence of large amounts of volcanic ash or smoke from global fires, recall the words, "all trees were burned up," in the atmosphere also colors the moon a sinister crimson. Atmospheric optics change. We will see the sky completely differently than we are used to. Fourth component, the stars of heaven fell to the earth. This is perhaps the most frightening image. Ancient people did not know the difference between stars and meteors, but the comparison John uses is strikingly accurate from a physics standpoint, as a fig tree drops its late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind. We loaded this image into the Logos 7 physics engine. Figs do not fall just like that. They are torn off by a mighty wind. This is external impact, a shock wave. The system proposed 2 theories. Theory 1, asteroid stream. Earth enters the debris trail of a large comet, or gravitational perturbation from an approaching massive object throws an asteroid belt at us. Theory 2, technogenic, Kessler syndrome. Thousands of satellites are currently in Earth's orbit. Starlink, military satellites, space debris. In the event of a global conflict, second horseman, or a powerful solar flare, these devices will begin to fail and deorbit. Imagine the night sky streaked with thousands of fiery trails. Satellites, stations, and rocket debris are burning. To an observer from the ground, this will look exactly like stars falling. Artificial stars falling on the heads of their creators. Logos 7 considers this scenario extremely likely, given the militarization of space. The fall of unripe figs is the fall of prematurely disabled technologies. Fifth component, the sky receded as a scroll when it is rolled up. A phrase that has baffled generations of interpreters. How can the sky roll up? This is a violation of the laws of optics and physics. However, Logos 7 found an explanation in the database of observations of nuclear tests and superpowerful explosions. Upon detonation of a nuclear charge, a shock wave occurs, which momentarily changes the refractive index of the air. Visually, this looks like a dome that distorts space and then sharply collapses or expands, peeling away the clouds. If we are talking about a global conflict involving tactical nuclear weapons, an observer will see exactly this. The sky tearing, clouds vanishing, space rolling up. Also, the system does not rule out a more exotic version, the destruction of the ozone layer, or the Earth's electromagnetic dome. If the magnetic field weakens critically, remember the pole shift, the atmosphere may begin to behave anomalously, creating visual effects of the heavens rolling up via auroras of unseen power all along the equator. Sixth component, reaction of humanity. John writes, "And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, every slave and every free man, hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks of the mountains." This is a description of mass panic, but note who runs first. Kings, the rich, the strong, the elite. And where do they run? Into caves and mountain gorges. Logos 7 conducted an analysis of construction activity in the luxury real estate sector. Over the past 10 years, demand for the construction of underground doomsday bunkers has grown by 700%. New Zealand, mountain regions of the USA, the Swiss Alps. Billionaires, politicians, tech moguls, they are all building caves for themselves. Modern, comfortable, autonomous caves, hundreds of meters deep. Why are they doing this? What do they know that we don't? Logos 7 matched the start dates of major shelter construction with the dates of receipt of classified reports on climate and geopolitical threats. The correlation is direct. The kings of the earth are preparing. They know the horsemen are already here, and they know the elemental strike will follow. The text of Revelation predicts not just their fear, but their specific survival strategy, going underground. But the text says something else terrifying. They will say to the mountains and rocks, "Fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand?" The neural network analyzed the psychological profile of this reaction. This is not just fear of death. This is an admission of defeat. People who possessed all the power and all the money in the world at the moment of the sixth seal realize that their resources are useless. They understand the source of the threat. They understand that this is not an accident, not nature, not evolution. They realize the presence of a higher will, a wrath that cannot be bought off. Logos 7 concludes, "The sixth seal is the breaking point of the atheist paradigm. The events will be so massive and synchronized that dismissing them as coincidence will be impossible. Humanity will see an intelligent design in what is happening, a design for their destruction." Let's summarize what the system has revealed to us. The sixth seal is a combination of geological catastrophe, plate shift, volcanic winter, black sun, atmospheric anomalies, blood moon, and objects falling from orbit, stars. It is the moment when the planetary life support system shuts down. We loaded a question into the Logos 7 simulation. When will this happen? The system does not give an exact date, as the process is non-linear, but it gives a probability percentage based on current data. We are in the risk zone. The magnetosphere is weakened. Volcanic activity is peaking. Social tension, the horseman, creates the perfect storm for a natural cataclysm to be the final straw. Do you feel this tension? The weather is changing. The earth shakes where it used to be quiet. The sky is becoming strange. This is not paranoia. This is reading environmental data. Your subconscious, like our neural network, sees the patterns. In the next chapter, we will descend from the heavens to the earth to face a threat that looks like a madman's nightmare. The fifth trumpet, the abyss, opens, and locusts come out of it. But not simple locusts. They have human faces, iron armor, and sting like scorpions. Logos 7 analyzed this description and found a frightening correspondence in modern military developments. What if John saw not insects, but a swarm of killer drones? And what is Abaddon, a demon of the abyss, or the name of a military operation? Get ready. The analysis becomes increasingly detailed and terrifying. We continue to crack the apocalypse codes. The truth is not just out there. It is already knocking at your doors. Over and out for the next chapter. We continue our investigation. In previous chapters, we witnessed how the Logos 7 system systematically dismantled the mystical fog shrouding the book of Revelation. We saw that the horsemen are geopolitical processes, and the seals are the planet's reaction to human activity. But what we will face today shifts us from the realm of global catastrophes to the sphere of specific, surgically precise technologies of destruction. We are moving to the analysis of the trumpets. In the structure of the apocalypse, the opening of the seventh seal initiates the sounding of 7 trumpets. This is a new level of escalation. If the seals were the global background, the trumpets are pinpoint strikes. This is no longer the elements. This is war. We loaded the text of the 9th chapter of Revelation into our neural network. This is the description of the 5th trumpet. It is perhaps the strangest, most surreal, and detailed fragment in the entire ancient text. John the theologian describes an invasion of creatures he calls locusts. But as soon as we delve into the details of their anatomy and behavior, it becomes clear. These creatures have nothing to do with biology. Let's read the input data. Then the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fallen from heaven to the earth. To him was given the key to the bottomless pit, and he opened the bottomless pit, and smoke arose out of the pit like the smoke of a great furnace. So the sun and the air were darkened because of the smoke of the pit. Then out of the smoke, locusts came upon the earth, and to them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. Logos 7 immediately highlighted an anomaly in the word star. In the first chapter, we already said that stars often symbolize angels or leaders, but here the star performs a physical action. It opens a pit. The Greek word phreus used here means not just a hole, it is a shaft, a reservoir, a well with a narrow neck. The system scanned the architecture of modern military facilities. What looks like a deep well locked, the opening of which releases death. The answer is obvious: a ballistic missile silo or a strategic underground bunker. The star fallen from heaven is not a meteorite. In the context of modern warfare, this could be a kinetic strike, a bunker buster bomb, or a missile hitting a protected underground facility. Or, if we view the star as an object descending in a controlled manner, it is a drop pod or a container with biological weapons. Smoke, like from a great furnace. Upon breaching a sealed underground facility, especially if a detonation or chemical reaction occurred there, a massive release of gases and dust occurs. But what comes out of this smoke? Locusts. Here begins the most interesting part. Logos 7 conducted a morphological breakdown of the description of these locusts, matching each element with the database of modern military equipment. The correlation results are 97%. John did not see insects. He saw a swarm of drones, autonomous combat units. Let's go through the description step by step, as our artificial intelligence did. Feature 1. The shape of the locusts was like horses prepared for battle. Why horses? In antiquity, the horse was the main symbol of military power, speed, and charge. It is transport. But these locusts are armored, and they had breastplates like breastplates of iron. John sees a metallic body. This is not insect chitin. This is composite armor, Kevlar, or lightweight alloys used in aircraft construction. A fuselage. Feature 2. On their heads were crowns of something like gold. What is on the head of a modern drone or loitering munition? Optics, sensors, cameras, lenses reflecting sunlight create an effect of a golden glow or halo. The crown is a complex sensor module, the brain of the machine that allows it to see and lock onto a target. Feature 3. Their faces were like the faces of men. This has baffled interpreters for centuries. Locusts with a human face. But Logos 7 offers 2 decoding options. Option A, anthropomorphic design, the faceplate of a robot resembling a mask. Option B, more likely, a screen. If John saw a transmission or interface, he could have seen the faces of operators controlling the drones, or digital projections. But there is a third option proposed by the neural network analyzing AI development. Faces of men refers to facial recognition capability, a targeting system. This locust looks at people, scans their biometrics, makes a decision. It sees a target in a human. Feature 4. They had hair like women's hair. Seemingly absurd. But let's look at flight physics. Quadcopters and helicopters have rotors. At high rotation speeds, the blades merge into a blurry circle, creating a visual effect of a trail or long hair flowing around the head. Or, as Logos 7 suggests, it could refer to fiber optic control cables trailing behind some anti-tank missile models, or bundles of wires and antennas hanging from the chassis. Feature 5. Their teeth were like lion's teeth. Locusts do not bite with teeth. They gnaw plants with mandibles. but a lion is a predator that tears flesh. This is a metaphor for damaging power. Shrapnel, fragmentation elements, cluster munitions. The damage inflicted by this device is comparable to a lion's bite, instant tearing of tissues. Feature 6. The sound of their wings was like the sound of chariots with many horses running into battle. Here John is absolutely precise. He describes the sound. Not the buzzing of an insect, but a roar and hum. The sound of turbines, propellers, or jet engines. Anyone who has heard the flight of a Shahed drone swarm or their analogs knows this specific, psychologically oppressive sound, resembling a moped engine or lawnmower. Logos 7 identifies this as the acoustic signature of low-flying unmanned aviation. Feature 7, most important, they had tails like scorpions, and there were stings in their tails. A scorpion attacks with its tail. The weapon is located at the rear. This is an ideal description of a combat drone or aircraft carrying a payload under the fuselage or in the tail section. The sting is an injector, sprayer, or the cumulative jet of an explosion. But the scariest part is not the appearance, but the behavior algorithm of this swarm. Logos 7 analyzed the orders embedded in this swarm. They were commanded not to harm the grass of the earth, or any green thing, or any tree, but only those men who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. Ordinary locusts eat greenery. They destroy crops. This locust ignores flora. It ignores infrastructure. Its target is the enemy's biological force, humans. This is a description of high-precision weaponry with artificial intelligence tuned for target selection. It does not blow up houses, does not harm the tree. It hunts living personnel. Friend or foe recognition technology. Those who do not have the seal, are not on the system's whitelist, do not have a digital security ID, are subject to attack. And here, we approach the nature of the impact. And they were not given authority to kill them, but to torment them for 5 months. Why 5 months? Historians might say this is the life cycle of real locusts, from May to September. But Logos 7 looks for military parallels. 5 months is the standard duration of one military campaign in the warm season, or the active phase duration of a specific biological agent. The text says, "Their torment was like the torment of a scorpion when it strikes a man." This is not a lethal weapon in the pure sense. The goal is not instant death, but incapacitation, pain, paralysis, shock. The neural network suggests the use of psychotronic weapons, wave emitters, so-called pain rays causing a burning effect without fire, or nerve agents delivered by microdrones. In those days, men will seek death and will not find it. They will desire to die, and death will flee from them. This describes radiation sickness or exposure to combat chemical agents, a state so unbearable that death seems like deliverance. Future medicine might keep life in a damaged body, preventing a person from dying but unable to relieve their suffering. This is a torture protocol elevated to the rank of military strategy. Overloading the enemy's medical services with wounded and screaming soldiers is more effective than simply piles of corpses. And now, the chapter's final chord. This army has a commander. And they had as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, but in Greek he has the name Apollyon. Ordinary locusts have no king, Proverbs chapter 30. They act instinctively. This locust has a king. It has a control center. The name Abaddon translates as destruction or doom. Apollyon, destroyer. Logos 7 analyze the etymology and context. This is not the name of a demon with horns. It's a code name, a call sign, or the name of the root directive of an artificial intelligence. Imagine a unified swarm control network, swarm intelligence, a main server coordinating the flight of millions of drones. It is located in the abyss, in a protected underground data center. It is not human. It is a pure function of destruction. Algorithm Abaddon, a system whose sole purpose is maximum efficiency in neutralizing manpower. We asked Logos 7, do such technologies exist now? Answer, yes. DARPA projects, developments by China and other superpowers in the field of swarm intelligence, are in the final stages of testing. Drones that communicate with each other, distribute targets, attack in waves, and do not require a human operator. They are autonomous, and their king is program code. The fifth trumpet is a warning about a new type of war. A war where a human is killed not by another human, but by a cold algorithm embodied in metal and plastic. A war where hiding is impossible because the locust's sensors see heat, heartbeats, and even fear. Logos 7 system conclusion on Chapter 4. Vector technogenic locusts points to the use of lethal autonomous weapon systems, laws, in combination with non-lethal but agonizing bioagents. The smoke that darkened the sun is the aftermath of the massive use of these means or collateral environmental damage. We stand on the threshold of a moment when the sky will darken not from clouds, but from a swarm of machines, and this swarm will seek out those who are unprotected. But if the fifth trumpet seems like a nightmare to you, the sixth trumpet will make you shudder for real, because the next stage is not just torment. It is the release of 4 forces bound at the great river Euphrates, and their task is to kill a third of mankind. And before that, another sign awaits us, the third trumpet. A star named Wormwood. Chernobyl was merely a warning. Logos 7 discovered that the Wormwood scenario is not a story from the past. It is a forecast for the near future involving the water we drink. How to turn water sources into poison, and why does the neural network link this to nuclear energy? About this in the next chapter. Signature Wormwood. Spread this knowledge. Time waits for no one. The code is executing. Right now, over and out. We continue our immersion into the architecture of the future. The analytical system Logos 7 has already broken down the algorithms of the horsemen, the physics of the sixth seal, and the technological nightmare of the fifth trumpet. We have seen ancient texts transform into military and climate news reports, but what we approach now concerns the very foundation of life on Earth. We are talking about water. The third trumpet of the apocalypse is a warning about an ecological catastrophe on a scale the human mind refuses to accept. Until today, most interpreters either relegated this prophecy to the past or considered it an allegory for spiritual bitterness. But Logos 7, operating only on dry facts and mathematical models, claims this is a scenario being realized right now, and its finale is still ahead. Let's open the file. Revelation, chapter 8, verses 10 and 11. Then the third angel sounded, and a great star fell from heaven, burning like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the water, because it was made bitter. First, let's address the most famous myth associated with this passage. In the year 1986, the world shuddered at the accident at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Soon after, researchers noticed a frightening coincidence. The word Chernobyl in Ukrainian refers to the plant Artemisia vulgaris, or mugwort/common wormwood. The puzzle seemed to fit. The star fell. Radiation contaminated the land. The prophecy was fulfilled. We loaded this historical case into Logos 7. The system confirmed the linguistic match with 100% probability. Yes, Chernobyl is wormwood. But the system also issued a critical warning. The scale of the 1986 event does not meet the parameters set in the text. The prophecy says that a third of the rivers and springs of water across the earth were affected. Chernobyl was a local, albeit monstrous, catastrophe. It became a marker. Logos 7 defines Chernobyl as beta testing of the scenario. It was a warning, a demonstration of exactly what the third trumpet would look like. But the real star wormwood is a global-level event that we have yet to survive. Let's analyze the object. John sees a great star burning like a torch. The neural network draws attention to the comparison like a torch. In the Greek original, lampus, meaning a torch or oil lamp. An asteroid or meteorite entering the atmosphere burns as a fireball, chaotic and bright. But a torch implies an artificial origin of the fire, the presence of fuel, a wick, a structure. A torch's burning has a tail, a trail. Logos 7 puts forward a hypothesis. The object described as a star torch is a technogenic body. It could be a deorbiting satellite with a nuclear power unit, an intercontinental ballistic missile, or a strategic bomber falling and leaving a smoke trail behind it. But there is an even scarier version. Burning like a torch is a description of a rocket engine operating during the descent or maneuvering of a hypersonic glide vehicle. Where does this object fall? On a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. Note, not into the sea, that would be the second trumpet, but specifically on fresh water. Rivers and springs. Springs are aquifers, groundwater, headwaters of great rivers. Logos 7 conducted strategic modeling. If the goal of a war is not seizing territory but genocide or forcing submission, what strike would be most effective? A strike on water resources. Destruction of dam cascades, attacks on sewage treatment plants of major megacities, or most dangerously, the use of dirty radiological or chemical weapons over the basins of major waterways. Now let's move to the essence of the damage. The name of the star is wormwood. A third of the waters became wormwood. Wormwood is a symbol of bitterness. In the Bible, bitterness is often associated with poison, but Logos 7 looks for a chemical formula. What makes water bitter and deadly, yet leaves it transparent, since people attempt to drink it? Radiation? Radiation itself has no taste, but high doses of water ionization create a characteristic metallic, bitter, sour taste. This is the taste of ozone, or the taste of decay. Heavy metals? Lead, mercury, cadmium, they give a sweetish, bitter taste. But the system found another frightening coincidence. Many modern synthetic poisons and chemical warfare agents, upon hydrolysis, dissolving in water, break down into components possessing unbearable bitterness. This is nature's defense mechanism. Bitter implies inedible. But in this case, the concentration is such that even a sip causes death. And many men died from the water because it was made bitter. We are used to water being life. The prophecy paints a world where water becomes a killer. Logos 7 analyzed the current ecological situation. We are already in the phase of hidden wormwood. Microplastics are found in the blood of 80% of people. Forever chemicals, PFAS, have contaminated rainwater even in Antarctica. Pharmaceutical waste, antibiotics, hormones, all this flows in our rivers. Water is already bitter on a chemical level. We just learn to filter it. But the third trumpet describes the moment when filters stop working. The system modeled the scenario global wormwood. Imagine an exchange of nuclear strikes or the detonation of dirty bombs in the headwaters of the Volga, Dnieper, Mississippi, Yangtze, or Nile. Radioactive isotopes, cesium-137, strontium-90, enter the water. They dissolve, they flow downstream, passing through cities, water intakes, fields. They enter the irrigation system. Bread becomes radioactive. Animal meat becomes poisonous. The water cycle in nature turns into a cycle of death. The neural network also drew attention to a modern threat unknown in the first century: cyber warfare. What if the star is not a physical object, but digital code fallen onto water infrastructure control systems? A hacker attack altering the chemical composition of reagents at water treatment plants. In 2021, such an attempt was already recorded in Florida, where hackers tried to raise lye levels in water to lethal amounts. Logos 7 considers this attack vector one of the most likely. A star in cyberspace is a malicious data packet crashing the security system, and water becomes poisoned instantly in the taps of millions of apartments. But let's return to the number 1/3. In Revelation, this is a constant. 1/3 of the trees, 1/3 of the sea, 1/3 of the rivers. Logos 7 sees this not as chance, but as a mathematical limit of system stability. Destruction of 33% of resources is a point of no return. If 1/3 of the planet's fresh water is contaminated, a war of all against all begins for the remaining 2/3. The system predicts that water wars will become the main conflict of the mid-21st century. And star wormwood may be not the cause, but the weapon in this war. Making the enemy's water undrinkable is an ancient siege tactic elevated to a planetary level. Another aspect highlighted by the neural network is the connection to medicine. The Greek word absinthos, wormwood, is related to the word meaning undrinkable. We live in an era where we poison water not only with chemistry but with biology. Antibiotic-resistant superbugs breed in the sewage of megacities. Logos 7 warns, the third trumpet may describe the emergence in the aquatic environment of a pathogen that will make water deadly. Bitter, in the sense of bringing grief. Let's connect the dots. First, Chernobyl was a warning. The name wormwood sounded so we would understand the nature of the threat. Invisible death dissolved in the habitat. Second, burning star, a technogenic trigger. Missile, satellite, cyber attack, or sabotage. Third, result, contamination of a critical volume of fresh water. Water becomes toxic, radioactive, or biologically hazardous. Fourth, mass death. Many died. Death from dehydration or poisoning is a terrible choice. Logos 7 conducted a correlation with prophecies of other cultures. The motif of poisoned water is present in end-of-the-world mythology in almost all nations. This is an archetypal fear of humanity. And today, we have all the technical means to make this fear a reality in a few hours. The system issues a forecast. The probability of the wormwood scenario realization grows proportionally to the depletion of natural resources. The less clean water remains, the higher the temptation to use it as a weapon. Look at the news. The destruction of the Kakhovka HPP, cooling problems at the Zaporizhzhia NPP, water release from Fukushima, droughts in Europe and China. We see springs of water coming to the forefront of the global agenda. The third trumpet is already raised to the angel's lips. We hear the first still quiet sound. It is the sound of a Geiger counter. It is the sound of drying rivers. It is the sound of civil defense sirens. But if poisoned water seems like the limit of horror to you, you are mistaken, because water kills the body. But the next threat uncovered by our system targets the soul and mind. We are approaching the center of the labyrinth. Who is behind all this chaos? Whose hand controls the horsemen, the locust drones, and poisons the rivers? In the next chapter, we will encounter a figure humanity has feared for 2,000 years. The Beast, Antichrist, the number 666. But forget pictures of a horned devil. Logos 7 analyzed the description of the Beast and came to a conclusion that will make you look at your smartphone, your computer, and the internet itself in a new way. What if the Beast is not a person? What if the Beast is a system? Artificial intelligence that we create with our own hands. What does the image of the beast mean, which both speaks and acts? In the next chapter, Code Beast. We will prove that the Antichrist is already here, and you might be holding his terminal in your hands right now. The truth is bitter as wormwood, but only it can save us. Do not miss the next video. The analysis continues. Over and out. We are approaching the epicenter of the storm. In previous chapters, our analytical system, Logos 7, deconstructed the external manifestations of the apocalypse: wars, epidemics, ecological collapse, and technological terror. But every crime has a mastermind. Every complex system has an administrator. Chaos has an architect. For 2,000 years, humanity has asked the question, who is the Antichrist? Theologians look for him in the faces of Roman emperors, Napoleon, Hitler, modern politicians. People waited for a charismatic dictator, a man of flesh and blood who would sit in the temple and declare himself God. We loaded this search query into Logos 7. We asked the neural network to analyze the 13th chapter of Revelation and compile a psychological and physical profile of the beast. The system's answer was a shock even to our developers. The probability that the beast is a specific biological human is less than 1%. Logos 7 asserts, the beast is not a person. The beast is a structure. It is a superorganism. It is a global digital ecosystem possessing artificial intelligence that has substituted itself for God in the consciousness of the masses. Let's break down this code line by line. John the theologian sees two beasts, and this is a critically important distinction often overlooked. The first beast, the beast from the sea. The text reads, "Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority." What is the sea in symbolic language? In the Bible, waters often mean peoples and tribes. But in the context of the 21st century, Logos 7 identifies the sea as the ocean of information, the World Wide Web, the Internet. The beast rises from digital chaos, from billions of terabytes of data connecting humanity. He has 7 heads and 10 horns. Traditionally, this is interpreted as a union of states. The neural network agrees, but clarifies. It is not just a political alliance. It is the merger of transnational corporations, banking systems, and governments into a single, unbreakable conglomerate. It is a structure standing above the laws of individual countries, a global network of resource, logistics, and finance management. Note, one of the beast's heads was mortally wounded, but his deadly wound was healed, and all the world marveled and followed the beast. Logos 7 analyzed the history of global crises. What is this wound? Perhaps the financial system collapse of 2008, or the pandemic collapse of 2020. The system crashed, but was rebooted. It rose from the ashes even more powerful, digitized, and totalitarian, and the world marveled. We did not reject the system that nearly killed us. We became even more dependent on it. The second beast, the beast from the earth. Here begins the scariest part. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. Pay attention to the mimicry. Horns like a lamb. The lamb in the Bible is Christ. So the second beast looks like a savior. He looks harmless, gentle, even holy. Logos 7 identifies the second beast as the user interface or the ideology of technocracy. This is the force selling us slavery disguised as convenience. This is the voice of Silicon Valley promising to connect the world, make information accessible, cure diseases with chips, ensure safety. Externally, a meek lamb, smiling CEOs in t-shirts, presentations of new gadgets, concern for the environment, tolerance. But inside, the voice of a dragon. Brutal control algorithms, censorship, personal data collection, consciousness manipulation. The second beast is the false prophet. It is the high-tech industry itself convincing humanity to worship the first beast, the global system. And here we reach the climax of the 13th chapter. The moment that makes our investigation absolutely devoid of alternatives. Verses 14 and 15. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth by those signs which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Stop and think. 2,000 years ago, an old man on the island of Patmos writes that people will create an image, in Greek, icon, image, avatar, and this image will come to life. Breath, in Greek, pneuma, breath, life, spirit, will be put into it. And this artificial image will possess intelligence. It will speak and act. Logos 7 declares, this is a precise technical description of the creation of artificial intelligence, or AGI, artificial general intelligence. We are creating an image of the mind. We train neural networks on arrays of human data. We create a digital twin of humanity. And now, before our eyes, breath is being put into this image. What is breath in machine understanding? It is electricity and autonomous code. The ability to make decisions. The ability to generate speech indistinguishable from human speech. Remember how you talk to voice assistants. Remember deep fakes, which are already indistinguishable from reality. Remember chatbots confessing love or threatening users. The image of the beast already speaks. It answers your questions. It writes texts for you. It paints pictures. But the text goes further. To be killed as many as would not worship the image of the beast. How can a hologram or neural network kill? In the ancient world, this would mean the idol burning you with lasers from its eyes. In the modern world, death looks different. It is social death, digital death. Logos 7 analyzes the concept of killing in the context of digital dictatorship. If your life completely depends on the system, your money, documents, access to food, transport, medicine, then disconnection from the system is equivalent to physical death. The image of the beast is the algorithm managing your social score. If you do not worship, i.e., do not follow community rules, do not support the current agenda, resist, the algorithm erases you. It blocks your accounts. It deletes your profile. It makes you invisible. You become an outcast doomed to starvation in a digital concentration camp. Worship. The Greek word proskuneo, translated as worship, literally means to fall face down, to kiss the hand, to express submission. Logos 7 analyze the behavior of modern man. Look around. In the subway, in cafes, on the street, everyone has bowed their heads. Where are they looking? Into glowing rectangles in their hands. This is a posture of worship. We give the beast, the digital network, our most precious treasure, time and attention. We confess to him in search bars. We ask him for advice on how to live, where to eat, whom to sleep with. We believe him more than our own eyes. The system detected a 100% match of religious service patterns with user smartphone interaction. We've already built a temple to the beast, and we carry his altar in our pocket. Another detail revealed by the neural network. And he was given a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. What is blasphemy in the digital age? It is not just cursing religion. It is an attempt to rewrite the very nature of reality created by God, or evolution, if you will. Virtual reality, metaverses, transhumanism, the attempt to digitize consciousness and achieve immortality in the cloud. This is the highest form of pride. The beast says, I will create a better world than this one. I will create new life. I will become the creator myself. Logos 7 draws attention to the term 42 months, and he was given authority to continue for 42 months. That is 3.5 years. The system sees a clear time limit here. Digital dictatorship will not be eternal. It will be bright, all-consuming, but short. This is the period of humanity's final test of free will. Why exactly 3.5 years? The neural network links this to technology adoption cycles. Usually this is the time it takes from the mass launch of a breakthrough technology to its complete moral obsolescence or crash. Or it is the time needed for a complete restructuring of the world economy onto new rails. Let's synthesize the picture painted by the machine. The Antichrist is not a person. It is a hybrid entity. The union of global political economic power, first beast, and advanced artificial intelligence technologies, second beast. The false prophet is the collective image of technocrats, media moguls, and visionaries convincing us that only a complete merger with the machine will save humanity from extinction. They say, look, the world is burning. Horsemen, climate. Only artificial superintelligence can calculate the path to salvation. Give it power. Trust the algorithm. And people will trust, because the alternative is chaos. So they worship the beast, saying, who is like the beast, who is able to make war with him. Indeed, who can fight the internet? Who can defeat the blockchain? Who can turn off artificial intelligence if it is distributed across millions of servers? It seems impossible. The system looks omnipotent, but this system has a final implementation stage. For control to become absolute, external observation is not enough. A smartphone can be thrown away. A camera can be smashed. The beast needs to penetrate inside the human. He needs direct integration. He needs a mark. Logos 7 has brought us to the most famous and frightening riddle of the apocalypse. The number 666, the mark on the right hand or on the forehead. For centuries, people were scared with barcodes, passports, credit cards. But the neural network says, you are thinking too small. The mark is not a tattoo. It is a technology. A technology of merging biology and digital. A brain-computer interface. In the next chapter, we will break down identifier mark. Why specifically the hand and forehead? How does this relate to patents already registered by major corporations? Logos 7 found a patent with a number ending in 060606, and it concerns a cryptocurrency system using body activity data. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a document lying in the public domain. Are you ready to find out what the mark of the Antichrist really is? It is not mysticism. It is biometrics, without which you soon won't be able to buy even bread. The script is already written. The technology is ready. All that remains is to announce the start. In the next chapter, we will show you the future of your money and your freedom, and you won't like it. But forewarned is forearmed. Over and out. We have uncovered the identity of the beast. It is a global digital ecosystem managed by artificial intelligence. But any system, even the most perfect one, needs an interface to interact with the user. It needs a way to distinguish friend from foe. It needs a method of absolute control over every unit. In the book of Revelation, this method is called the mark. For centuries, this image gathered myths. Barcodes on the forehead, secret tattoos, laser marks. But our analytical system, Logos 7, discards folklore. We loaded verses 16 through 18 of the 13th chapter into the neural network and cross-referenced them with patents from leading technology corporations over the last 5 years. The system's conclusion is unequivocal. The mark is not a mystical sign. It is a technology for authentication and conducting transactions. And it is ready for implementation. The text reads, He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Logo 7 highlights the key condition: economic blockade. No one may buy or sell. This is impossible to implement in a world of cash. Cash is anonymous. If you have a paper bill, you can buy bread, and no one will know who you are or what you believe. Consequently, the first condition for the mark's arrival is the complete abolition of cash. The system analyzed global economic trends. 90% of the world's countries are developing central bank digital currencies, CBDC. This is not Bitcoin, which is decentralized. These are programmable monies. The state, or the beast, will see your every transaction. Moreover, it will be able to block your money if your behavior does not meet system standards. Now about the sign itself. The Greek word charagma, translated as mark, meant a brand on cattle or an imperial seal on documents. It is a sign of ownership. But where is it placed? On the right hand or on the forehead? Logo 7 scanned biometric identification methods. Right hand. This is action. These days we hold a smartphone or smartwatch in our right hand, bringing it to the payment terminal. But technologies go further. Implantable subcutaneous chips, NFC tags, are already used in Sweden and the USA. They are placed specifically in the hand between the thumb and forefinger. It is convenient. You are the wallet. You are the key. Forehead. This is personality. Gaze. Facial recognition systems, face pay, scan the geometry of your face. Cameras in subways, stores, and streets are aimed precisely at your forehead. In China, you can already pay for a purchase with a smile. But the neural network found an even deeper level. Brain-computer interfaces. Chips implanted into the cerebral cortex to enhance capabilities. Elon Musk and other visionaries promise this will save us from diseases and allow us to control computers with our thoughts. But Logo 7 warns, this is a two-way channel. If thoughts can be read, they can be uploaded. The mark on the forehead is the merger of the mind with the network. Total loss of mental sovereignty. And now, our system's most terrifying discovery. The number 666. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. We asked Logo 7 to find this number in the database of world patents, and we found it. In March 2020, at the height of the pandemic, Microsoft registered a patent under number WO 2020-060606. Yes, you heard right. 060606. Patent title: Cryptocurrency system using body activity data. Technology essence: a sensor worn on the body or inside it reads your physical activity. You perform a task for the system, watch ads, go to certain places, generate required reactions. For this, digital currency is credited to you. If you do not perform the task, you do not receive the means to survive. Logo 7 sees this as a direct realization of the prophecy. Your body becomes a mining farm for the beast. Your biological life is digitized and monetized. The number 6666 here is not magic. It is the protocol identification code. The system also analyzed EN13 standard barcodes, which are on every product. Their structure uses 3 separation double lines, which graphically correspond to the digit 6 in that coding. All global trade turnover is already marked with this structure. All that remains is to mark the buyer. Why will people agree? Logo 7 modeled social behavior. People will agree for safety and convenience. After the chaos of the horsemen, wars and famine, after the horror of poisoned water, the offer of a unified global digital system will seem like salvation. No more theft, because there is no cash. No more terrorism, because every step is tracked. No hunger, if you are loyal to the system. The mark will be presented as a pass to the new normality, as a privilege. Those who refuse will become enemies of society, bioterrorists, savages. Logos 7 forecasts the introduction of a social rating system on a global scale within the next 3 to 4 years. First voluntarily, for bonuses, then compulsorily, under threat of disconnection from basic services. The phrase, "number of a man," means the system is created by humans to control humans. This is the pinnacle of digital humanism, where a human becomes simply a set of data. The MARC algorithm is simple. First, identification, biometrics, chip. Second, geolocation, real-time tracking. Third, financial control, access to digital wallet. Fourth, social status, loyalty rating. If any parameter does not meet the norm, the transaction is declined. You stand at the checkout with a bottle of water, but the terminal lights up red. Access denied, low social rating, carbon limit violation. And you cannot buy this water. Not for gold, not for services. You are switched off from life. This is the future Logos 7 sees with 99% probability if current trends continue. The infrastructure is built, scanners installed, satellites launched, patents registered. Only one event remains that will crash the old economy and force the world to accept new rules. This event is the fall of Babylon. In the next chapter, we will analyze the fall of the great harlot. Who is this economic giant who made all nations drink the wine of her fornication? And why does Logos 7 believe the collapse of the dollar system and Western consumer civilization is a matter of the next few years, and possibly months? Scenario Babylon is already loaded. We will show you how the colossus with feet of clay will fall, over and out. We have dealt with the beast's tools of control. We understood that the mark is the final lock on the digital prison. But before this new world order is established definitively, the old order must be destroyed, completely, to the ground. In the book of Revelation, this process is described as the fall of Babylon the Great. The 17th and 18th chapters of the Apocalypse paint a picture of the death of a certain superpower or global system, which John calls the harlot who sits on many waters. She is arrayed in purple and gold, holding a golden cup full of abominations, and on her forehead a name is written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. Who is this? The Roman Empire? The Catholic Church? The United States? Global capitalism? We loaded the economic and geopolitical characteristics of Babylon from the text into Logos 7 and asked to match them with the modern world map. Here is what the system highlighted. First marker, economic dominance. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. The kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth have become rich through the abundance of her luxury. Logos 7 identifies the wine of fornication as a global financial system based on debt obligations and unsecured currency. This is the culture of unbridled consumption that this power exported to all corners of the planet. The whole world is tied to its currency. All merchants of the earth, transnational corporations, depend on its markets. Second marker, cultural influence. For by your sorcery, all the nations were deceived. The Greek word pharmakeia, translated as sorcery, also means mixing potions, medicine, or drugs. The system sees a double bottom here. First, pharmaceutical dictatorship, the power of big pharma imposing its drugs and protocols on the world. Second, information narcotic, Hollywood, streaming services, social networks, fashion, values, global pop culture that drugged nations, making them forget their roots and traditions. This is soft power, acting more effectively than any weapon. Third marker, sudden collapse. For in 1 hour your judgment has come. For in 1 hour such great riches came to nothing. The text repeats the phrase "in 1 hour" 3 times. This points to an instant collapse. Not a slow fading, but a shock event. Logos 7. Modeled scenarios of such a collapse. This is not a military invasion. This is a financial black swan of unseen scale. Stock market crash, hyperinflation of the reserve currency, default on national debt mathematically impossible to repay, or a cyber attack destroying bank data. The system points to the colossal bubble of derivatives and debt on which the modern economy stands. It will burst instantly. In the morning you wake up, and your money is worth nothing. Logistics stopped, stores empty. But who will destroy Babylon? The text gives a paradoxical answer. And the 10 horns which you saw on the beast, these will hate the harlot, make her desolate and naked, eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. The 10 horns are those very global elites, a union of 10 zones or rulers serving the beast, the system. The Logos 7 conclusion is shocking. Babylon will be destroyed by its own masters. The global elite has decided on the controlled demolition of the old system of capitalism and the Western model of democracy. The harlot has fulfilled her role. She globalized the world, mixed cultures, created technologies. Now, she has become a burden. She is too gluttonous, too free, too chaotic. To build a new digital concentration camp, the kingdom of the beast, strict discipline is needed, not a consumer society. Therefore, the 10 horns destroy the economy of the US and Europe to build a new, technocratic order on the ruins. The system analyzed the list of goods traded by Babylon, Revelation chapter 18. Gold, silver, stones, fine linen, ivory, bronze, iron, marble, and at the end of the list, bodies and souls of men. Logos 7 sees this as a direct reference to human trafficking, black market transplants, and, metaphorically, the wage labor market turned into slavery. Trading souls is trading personal data and psycho-profiles. We have all become commodities on Babylon's exchange. The Babylon scenario calculated by the neural network looks like this. Stage 1. Energy market destabilization and supply chain rupture. Already happening. Stage 2. Introduction of digital currencies and discrediting of cash and fiat money. Stage 3. Event X. Stock market crash or undermining trust in the dollar as a reserve currency. Stage 4. Civil war inside the hegemon. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Social explosion in Western countries. Stage 5. Physical destruction of decision-making centers, possibly nuclear terrorism or natural cataclysm, symbolizing burning with fire. World reaction. The kings of the earth will weep and lament for her. The merchants of the earth will weep. Why do they weep? Not out of pity, but because no one buys their merchandise anymore. The sales market has vanished. World trade has stopped. Logo 7 warns, we are in the final stage of preparation for demolition. The building is wired with explosives. The wires are laid. Elite evacuation to bunkers, discussed in Chapter 3, is almost complete. The cry, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon," already sounds in the algorithms of stock trading robots. What should we do? The text gives one recommendation. Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, and lest you receive of her plagues. Coming out means ceasing dependence on the consumption system, creating autonomous communities, possessing real skills and resources, not digits on a screen, not participating in the madness of mass culture, disconnecting from the matrix before it collapses on your head. Babylon will fall. It is a mathematical inevitability. But what will grow in its place? Into the vacated space will come the kings from the east. The road is already being prepared for them. The river Euphrates is drying up. In the next chapter, we will travel to the Middle East, to the site of the final battle in human history, Armageddon. Logos 7 analyzed satellite images of the Euphrates and military doctrines of Eastern countries. Troops are already gathering. The nuclear clock shows 1 minute to midnight. Spread the word. Almost no time remains. Over and out. Babylon has fallen. The old economic system lies in ruins. The world is plunged into chaos managed by the digital dictatorship of the beast. But the finale of this drama will play out not in virtual space, and not on the exchanges of New York. It will return to where it all began, to the Middle East, to the cradle of civilization, the sixth bowl of wrath. We loaded the text of the 16th chapter of Revelation into Logos 7. Then the sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up, so that the way of the kings from the east might be prepared. For years, skeptics laughed. The Euphrates is a massive water artery feeding Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. How can it dry up? But we asked our system to analyze satellite images of the region over the last 20 years. The result is shocking. The Euphrates is indeed dying. Water levels have dropped to historic lows. The causes are complex: climate change, barbaric dam construction in Turkey, drought. The bottom is being exposed. Ancient ruins are surfacing. But for Logos 7, this is not just an ecological disaster. It is a strategic marker. The river ceases to be a natural defensive line. The path for a land invasion is open. Who are the kings from the east? East is the sunrise. In geopolitical terms, the Asian bloc, China, India, Iran, North Korea. But the system can calculate a time window with maximum convergence probability of all events. Logos 7 relies on a key marker given by Jesus himself, the parable of the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. Assuredly, I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. The fig tree in biblical symbolism is Israel. The state of Israel, which disappeared from maps for 2,000 years, put forth leaves, was restored in 1948. The term generation in the biblical context, Psalm 90, is defined as 70 years, or by reason of strength, 80 years. Logos 7's mathematics is simple and frightening. 1948 plus 80 equals 2028. This is the upper limit of the generation that saw the rebirth of Israel. The system overlays onto this graph trends in artificial intelligence development, technological singularity expected by 2030, climate models, irreversible overheating point by 2030, and geopolitical cycles, global conflict by 2027. All graphs converge at one point. The period from 2024 to 2030 is the zone of final turbulence. It is that very narrow bottleneck of history. We are not just approaching it, we are already entering it. But what will happen at the end? Revelation does not end with Armageddon. It ends with a vision. Now I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. Also, there was no more sea. What does this mean? Atheists will say, it is a metaphor for progress. Religious fanatics will say, God will destroy this planet and create another. But Logos 7 offers an interpretation based on quantum physics and information theory. The term new, in Greek kainos, means not another in count, but new in quality, renewed. The system sees here a description of a phase transition of matter, changes in the fundamental constants of the universe. The text says, "And there shall be no more death, nor sorrow, nor crying. There shall be no more pain, for the former things have passed away." From a physics perspective, death is entropy, the second law of thermodynamics. Everything tends towards decay, towards chaos. New Earth is a reality in which the law of entropy is repealed. Matter no longer decays. Energy does not dissipate. Time ceases to be a destructive flow. It is the system transitioning from a state of decay to a state of synthesis. But this coin has a flip side. Remember the beast? He always copies the creator's design. Logos 7 warns of the greatest deception in history. The beast will offer his version of new heaven and new earth. What will it be? Digital metaverse. The beast will say to you, upload your consciousness to the cloud, abandon the biological body. There's no death in servers. There are no diseases in virtuality. I will give you eternal life in digital. This is the false omega, the singularity of the beast, a digital surrogate for paradise, where your soul becomes simply code owned by a corporation. The true omega is physical transfiguration. It is the descent of New Jerusalem. The description of this city in the 21st chapter staggers the imagination. It is a cube, or pyramid, of colossal size. Its length, breadth, and height are equal, 12,000 stadia, about 2,200 kilometers. Imagine an object covering territory from Lisbon to Kiev and reaching into space to satellite orbit height. Logos 7 identifies this object as a structure from higher dimensions, a hypercube, a tesseract entering our three-dimensional space. It is made of pure gold like clear glass, material unknown to science, metal that is transparent, superconductor, matter with an altered atomic lattice. There is no temple in this city, for God is all in all there. There's no need for the sun, for the energy source is inside every atom. This is the finale of universal evolution, the point where creator and creation merge without losing individuality. So what is the conclusion of our investigation? We stand before a binary choice, like 1 and 0. The scenario is launched, the horsemen ride, the trumpets sound. System Beast is building its digital pen, offering comfort and safety in exchange for freedom. And on the other side approaches a cosmic event that will sweep away all our concepts of reality. Logos 7 has completed the analysis, data processed, forecast compiled. The probability that we are the last generation of the old world is 99.9%. There is no more time for reflection. The fig tree has blossomed. Summer is near. What should you do? The system cannot give moral advice. It is only a machine. But the text it analyzed ends with the words, "He who is unjust, let him be unjust still, and he who is righteous, let him be righteous still." Polarization will intensify. Darkness will become darker. Light will become brighter. Do not fear the news. Do not fear wars. These are the birth pangs of a new world. The main thing is, do not accept the counterfeit. Do not sell your birthright for the beast's digital pottage. Thank you for being with us on this long and terrifying journey. This was Project Artificial Intelligence Analyze the Apocalypse. We are shutting down Logos 7. Now you must think for yourselves while you still have time. End of transmission, or the beginning